Hi, welcome to SOAR Week 4. Last week we had a great message from Amy about gifts and callings. And this week I asked God, what do you want me to talk about? And he said, I don't want you to talk. I want you to give away iPads. Woohoo! Right? It's like Oprah's favorite things, you know? He said, I want you to give away iPads. But you have to work for it. Even you on video. You got an iPad if you work for it. We have a challenge. And that challenge is that to win or get your iPad, you have to scale a 20-story wall. You have to run and perform a triathlon, which I would not do for an iPad. We have someone who would. And you have to face your biggest enemy, your greatest fear. Would any of you work for your iPad? We have a few of you that would work for your iPad. I'm not really giving away iPads, I'm sad to say. I don't have that much money, but God does. And he told me, I want you to talk about the imagination. And that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about how our imagination can either work for us or it can work against us. So when I said you're going to win an iPad, what happened? Did your imagination see yourself on your iPad, maybe at home, and I'm playing Angry Birds? It's a bigger screen, right? That's pretty awesome. But what happens when I start saying you have to scale a 20-story wall? I'm not doing that, right? That's scary. 20 stories. I mean, have you seen how high that is? What about facing your greatest enemy? Do you have a picture of them in your head? If you have one? Do you have an unreconciled relationship? Maybe there's someone who doesn't like you, or someone you hurt when you were still a sinner, and you don't want to run into them. Well, we are going to look at a Bible story in Numbers 13 and Deuteronomy 1. Moses talks about it again. And it is after God brought the Israelites out of Egypt, and they are very close to the promised land. And he says, go check out the territory, go check out the awesome land that I have given you. And so Moses assigns a team. And if you read Deuteronomy, it kind of looks like they said, well, let's go spy it out and assess the people in the land that we're supposed to take the land from. So these 12 men, they go and they check it out and they come back with a report. And 10 men, they say, their city is so large. I mean, it's awesome. It is flowing with milk and honey, and it is awesome. But we look like grasshoppers in comparison to how big they are. You know, they didn't have David and Goliath to look back at this point. They didn't know they could defeat a giant. I mean, a grasshopper, we look like grasshoppers in comparison to them. They said that the walls of their city were as high as the sky. Do you see what's happening here? These men, they started seeing obstacles, and it got planted in their mind and in their thoughts and in their imagination and in their dreams. And everything got bigger, right? We know walls don't go to the sky. That's ridiculous. But their imagination magnified it. As they looked on, they saw impossibilities, and they were embraced with fear. There were 2 men, however, that they said, whatever, that's our land, let's go possess it. And if you remember from week 2, they had an attitude of acquisition. But only 2 men. So those 10 negative voices, as the word began to spread throughout the entire community, people were too afraid to go in and take the gift, this awesome gift that God had said is yours. All you have to do is take it. It may look impossible with your eyes, but God wants his children to use their imagination to see what is not seen. He wants his children, in Ephesians 3:20, it says, God is able to do more than we can think, ask, or imagine. In some versions, it says dream and hope. According to his power that's at work in us. And that's what God wants us to do, but our imagination is always working. Can you agree with that? I mean, when I was a little girl, I actually imagined that our washing machine was a drum in music. So it'd have a beat. You know, before I knew it, I had like a whole dance routine down, and I could play the drums. And when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a singer. But I'm a CPA. Because somewhere between being a child and being an adult, I started seeing giant walls in my life and giant barriers to doing the things that I loved in my heart. For one, I can't sing. So, I need to not have gift envy. So I've got to go back and embrace the gifts I've been given. But our imagination is always working. And it's either going to work for us or against us. And we know from the Israelites that their imagination led them back into the wilderness for 40 years. They went into the wilderness. Amy said, God faithfully initiates his will for your life. He does. He initiated his will for their life. But they weren't willing to say yes. They said, oh, I'm scared. They didn't know when they needed God's power that they would have it, right? So your imagination will always lead you somewhere.